Alright, so this morning we're working on Bristol board using the Koh-i-Noor Blue Progresso woodless colored pencil. Just as a warm-up, we're doing warm-ups. I encourage you guys, daily to do some type of warm-up, some type of little sketch, drawing, or something that really gets the juices flowing. So today I'm going to be doing some more birds. I'm expanding on my project that I've been working on in my personal time. I've been doing a lot of artwork and sketches pertaining to fish. So I decided I'm going to go ahead and do a little bit more birds. You guys know, if you follow me on the channel, you know that I love doing birds. It's just one of those things that, they're kind of like aliens to me. They really, I just love doing them. And there's so many different types of birds, Definitely as you progress through this art thing and you get better at what you're doing, challenge yourself to pick an animal, right? Pick an animal and just start drawing it. Drawing it till you know every part of it. I watched a video recently on YouTube that had to do with precisely this. I don't think it's going to fall. Hopefully my markers won't fall. Precisely this. It said, how do you get better at drawing? It says, draw the same thing for a year. And, at first I was intrigued. I'm like, drawing the same thing for a year? How does that really give you a perspective of how things are created? And, you want variety. I'm always looking for variety in what I do. And I was intrigued. So I started watching this, and basically what it was is draw the same subject, but you draw it in ways that helps you explore what that creature is. Like, for instance, let's say you pick bird. There's so many different types of birds. Let's say you pick parrots, and you decide that you're going to draw this, draw parrots for a year, and you're going to explore how they're designed, how they're created, how, the anatomy is, and what things look like whenever you put them in different poses and different positions. And what that's going to do is it's going to educate you on not only the anatomy and the design of the creature, but it's also going to show a lot. It's going to really help you as an artist, help, I don't want to say streamline, but drawing the same thing will help educate you on the processes of how to draw a specific object in a myriad of different ways. So when I worked in apparel, just to give you an example, so when I worked in apparel, I did so for many, many years, and I had to draw, we worked with a client, Hard Rock Cafe, so I had to think of ways to draw that logo and keep it inside the branding of Hard Rock, which is, kind of that vintage rock and roll feel. I had to draw it hundreds and hundreds of different ways, but it still had to stay true to the core of who it was, being Hard Rock, a shirt. You guys have seen different types of Hard Rock shirts, and what that inadvertently did was it gave me a perspective of how to draw and create something inside of the creative box, but expand out and really explore and venture forth in what I can do with that particular branding. The same thing happens whenever you draw animals. So, I've drawn, you guys know I love, like I said, I love to draw birds, but I also love to draw elephants, and I love to draw pretty much any animal, to be honest with you. I don't think there is an animal that I don't really like. Of course, that really lends itself to understanding anatomy and where stuff is, but I pick these certain little subjects, and I'll go off on tangents, like understanding how anatomy works in birds, and then how that translates over to how I can do, a wolf. I know wolves don't have beaks and feathers and stuff, but, wolves have leg bones and feet and claws and eyes, and how that translates over. And what I'm trying to basically say is, once you really get in there and start understanding anatomy and how that translates over to a myriad of different disciplines and how to draw, then you can, after that year, let's say you choose to draw a bird, you'll really know how to draw a bird, but then that'll translate over to really understanding and how to draw everything. You know, I remember back in college, one of the big focuses on was how to draw human beings, and how, you know, that if you know how to draw a human being, then you know how to draw pretty much everything. And that was really true, you know, in a sense that, you know, understanding anatomy and skulls and placement of stuff, that really helped me develop the ability to draw pretty much anything. So, birds. Why do I like birds? I like the simplicity of them. You know, you can start out with your simple shapes. So I started out with a circle. I came down and I drew sort of like a bean shape. Let's do some grasses here. And to me, it's just a really quick means to an end. Having that pencil move, having that, you know, having the time spent, I call it, you know, pencil time, will really help you define the muscle memory that you're really trying to develop. The muscle memory, you know, whenever I sit down to draw, it's kind of like a modus operandum. You know, what's that mode, that default mode that I have whenever I sit down to draw? And that is, you know, I have my pencil in hand, and it's a feeling. It's hard to describe, especially if you don't draw a lot. But if you do, you completely understand what I'm talking about. So let's go ahead and draw. It's like whenever you ride a bike. Whenever you first sit down to ride a bike, it's really difficult because you've never done it before. And this is kind of an easy analogy, because we've all, or at least most of us, have ridden bikes before. So whenever you ride on a bike, you understand certain principles when you ride a bike, you know, inertia, balance, and all those other things. So the same thing applies whenever you start to draw. So let's go ahead and have this come back like that. And it's just one of those deals where, you know, drawing doesn't have to be a skill set that is unobtainable. You know, skills are something that you develop over time. And some people are better than others at the skill sets, and some people learn faster, and some people are just, you know, honestly, we all want to equalize everything and say that we're all equal, but, you know, we're really not whenever it comes to intelligence. Some people are smarter than others. Some people see the world different than others, and that's okay. That's part of our, you know, part of the thing with human beings. We all are unique in our own way. But, you know, the skill of drawing and seeing is something that you develop over time. And as the more drawings that you do, the more and more you'll reestablish these connections between your hand, the pencil, the paper, your eye, and how you sit down and really, you know, draw something. Let's go ahead and have this right here. Have that feather. And then have these come up. And have his feet go like this, down, balance things. Now you notice whenever I draw, I'll do, you know, all these lines look like a bunch of gobbledygook, but they're really not. It gives me kind of that roadmap, and I talk about the roadmap in numerous other videos, and how it helps me find out where stuff is. And I'll draw lightly to begin with, and then I'll come back and I'll you know, put in the harder line that again defines it as quote unquote a drawing. Well, one of the things I tell students, and I said this recently, I said, you know, the more and more that you draw, the more that you'll understand that drawing is a skill, but also it's an opportunity for you to see the world different, you know? I always look at the paper as an adventure. It is a window into my world around me. Not every drawing that I do is good. Not every drawing, and honestly, it shouldn't be that way. You should really be exploring and testing yourself and pushing those limits. And if you find yourself drawing the same way over and over again, you know, that default, kind of change things up. You know, at one point in time, I'd actually switched hands and I was drawing with my left hand because I am right-handed. And it gave me, it totally, I don't want to say messed my brain up, but what it did was it switched gears on my brain, and that default mode that, you know, we all kind of get into, not only like whenever you drive to work every single day, and then you arrive at work and you don't even remember all the stuff that you know, maybe saw. That's one of those things where you're like, oh my gosh, how did I get here? I remember I had a tooth pulled once, and I had to drive, you know, for 2 hours afterwards, and the medicine kind of gave me a little bit of a skew, and I wasn't inebriated, but it did something to my memory. And I got home, and my wife said, well, how was the drive? And I said, I don't remember. So yeah, our body kind of goes into that mode of autopilot and doing things a little bit different, maybe switching your hand, maybe draw things upside down. That will help you see the world in a different way. Again, we're just doing some warm-ups, just some fun here and there, just a little bit. Okay, so then we'll do two final here. Okay. Shapes. So birds come in all kind of different shapes and sizes. You know, we've seen different types of birds. Some are small, some are large. You know, it's your prerogative on how you want to really go in and design these characters. And again, these are character birds. These aren't quote unquote real birds. You know, even though we look at stuff like this, that really kind of throws us for a loop. If you can see that, hopefully it's in focus. That kind of stuff really blows my mind. That stuff like that actually exists. But you can definitely push and pull those forms and those shapes to really fit your need. And you know, I had talked before about you know, different character types and, you know, stuff like that. Definitely you want to explore. But in this mode right now that I'm in, I'm just in sketch mode. I'm just having some fun. Just having a little bit of fun. And you see, I'll put the general shape in, and then, you know, working out that roadmap of where stuff is. Let's have his feet come here. And even, you know, a lot of people ask, you know, how do you do stuff like that? And I always say, well, I just do it. You remember that old Nike ad back in the 80s, if you've been around that long, and even if you haven't, you've seen some shirts around that say, just do it. That's one of those phrases that we're like, yeah, I'll just do it. And then we get into that moment, and then we're like, I don't want to do it, it's hard. But yeah, just sit down, put some marks on the paper, see where you go. You know, you don't need fancy stuff like this or fancy paper. You could just sit down and draw on lined paper, you know, which I always used to, my students would come into class and they would be drawing on lined paper, and I'm like, what are you doing? Don't draw on lined paper, blah, 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 blah. Now I'm like, you know, if you want to draw, whatever works for you. You know, whatever works, whatever's good for you, dude. You know, if you want to fight those lines, it's up to you. And then I'll go back and I'll just, you know, some little feathers here and there. He's got a little plumage. Oops. Right there. That's fun. Doodling, sketching. Is it a necessary thing in this day and age? Yes, you are so distracted in everything you do. I mean, you go online nowadays. Let's go ahead and do this. Black right there. You go online these days, and it's like you're so distracted, you know, from ads and, you know, if you do a Google search, then you're inundated with different, you know, different directions of what you could click, and everybody's biting for your attention, excuse me. And, you know, sitting down to draw really helps focus me. I talk about stress drawing and, you know, how it can help you refocus and recenter you. And those things are important. you know. Okay, so let's do one more. Let's scooch this over a little bit. And these, you know, these would go into like a sketchbook, and I'm doing this on Bristol board because first, it's a format that you guys can see really good, and also, you know, I like the paper. Now, I do have sketchbooks that I do draw in, but, you know, I think that for this situation that it just works a little bit better. So we're going to scooch this over just a little bit. We have a little bit of space right here. Okay. Okay, it's a little bit smaller here. The feet come out just a little bit. So the reason why I haven't posted a video in a little while, I've been really busy. Just with, gosh, I've been doing 3D work, I've been doing posters, I've been doing, gosh, character design, package design, you know. 'Tis that time of year. I always talk about different phases, you know, the first quarter, the second quarter, the third quarter. So the first quarter is typically really busy, then you have the second quarter, which kind of levels out in production, and then you have, depending on if you're doing stuff for the fall, you'll have a huge amount of work in the second quarter, and then the third quarter, which, you know, all that stuff that translated from the first quarter over to the third. So, yeah, I mean, Christmas is typically a slow time for me. And then the first of the year, you've got all these companies that, you know, have new hires and they're expanding, or, you know, they've fired people and they're looking to, you know, do whatever they need to do to keep their business afloat. And this year's been a little bit different because of COVID. You know, they were kind of waiting to see the what was going to happen with the lockdown. And of course, now we have the issue internationally with the stuff that's going on in Russia and whatnot. But what I'm seeing is a huge influx of requests for creative. You know, people are now, they've been saving their money for a while, and now they're ready to spend the money, which is really awesome for me because I'm ready to take your money. I'm just kidding. No, I'm not. But I am ready to, you know, get down to work and really just do this, working as much as I can. And that also involves, you know, me doing videos and stuff like that for you guys. And I'll try to get stuff out every week. And if I don't, just know that I'm still thinking of you. And I love you guys. I love you so much. But yeah, that's basically what I've been doing. I've been working. You know, I did see that Apple came out with a new computer system, the Studio, that looks pretty awesome. Always expensive. I'm like, $2,000 for the lowest one. What is this? It's certainly not Russia. Okay. I used to say that phrase. What is this, Russia? Now I'm not going to say that. All right. Okay. So that's some birds for you guys as I sit down and draw some fun. Just having some fun. You know, let's make this a little bit out. A couple feathers here and there. Here we go. Here's another feather come out from behind. Okay. Let's have a little eyebrow right there. Now, at this point in time, I would look at them and say, okay, how can I humanize them? So typically glasses, maybe a bow tie, but I don't think I'm going to do that. I enjoy these just the way they are. You know, I can go back, I can sharpen my pencil if I want to. And define the eyes a little bit better so you see basically that they're just sketches. They're just little doodles, you know, just having some fun. Let's go ahead and put that in just a little bit. Yeah. Maybe he's got a different color of his head and that kind of goes down. And we've got this area right here. And color that in just a little bit to break that silhouette up just a little bit. Yeah, having some fun, maybe some leaves. Yeah. Okay, that's all I had for you guys today. Hopefully you enjoyed the doodle session. Working on some other videos, of course. Haven't ironed those out just yet. I'm actually creating something called a illustrator/artist field guide that really helps that person that either is stepping into the illustration and graphic design field, or they've been in there a while and they're kind of stagnant. Or if you're a budding student that is ready to jump out and you need a little bit of understanding of what you are to expect. This isn't anything like the book that Will Terry has put out, which is, you know, what they didn't tell me in art school. And I'm sure if I read that, I don't own it, so I don't want to trample on his situation. But this is more or less a field guide for a lot of those people that, you know, really want to understand what to expect. And this is just coming from my perspective. I do have a wealth of knowledge to give to you guys. And that's just something that I want to, you know, put forth and eventually, you know, get to you, hopefully by the end of this year. So it is a very large endeavor. So that's all I have for you guys today. Hopefully you enjoyed, and we'll see you next time. Definitely like and subscribe, please, if you like what you see, and share. Have a great day. Bye.